You're live.
We are live. It's time to go again. Round two. That's okay, no problem. Welcome again. We're all really acquainted in this room right now, so thank you to everybody joining us online. And if you've heard this, we're going to go through, start from the top again, but just for anybody who joined late or missed the first rendition before our technical difficulties. But my name is Charlotte Miller. I am the Assistant Registrar of Strategic Communications within the Office of the Registrar at McMaster University. This is my colleague, Hollie. She is the Specialist of Communications and Events, also in the Office of the Registrar at McMaster. The Office of the Registrar, Hollie's going to go a little bit more in depth into it in a few minutes, but what I'd like you to know now is that we are a centralized unit within McMaster University. So what that means is we help support the faculties as well as other administrative offices in serving students. And I love the discussion we had this morning with Dr. Judy because I think there's a lot of parallels. This specific story that we're going to tell you today revolves around how we built a strategic communications plan focused specifically on our internal campus partners. And we did that so that we could better serve those students. So when we were listening to Dr. Judy this morning, she was talking about how it's important for us to take care of ourselves first. And then the second person on the hierarchy were those who were helping doing the serving. And so that's exactly what we're looking at today. So it was a really nice transition into our presentation today. Okay, technical difficulties are not over yet. The clicker's not working anymore. Sorry, our clicker's not working anymore. I'm gonna turn it off and turn it back on again. Do you think it'll work? Oh, it's buzzing. That's fun. Nope, still not working. That's okay, no worries. I'm just, oh, if I point it over there? No. What if I push this button? I'm just gonna push buttons, everybody. We're gonna find out what happens. No. Have all of you noticed the tiny little microphone in my hand though? Isn't that the cutest? I love it. And I feel like there's a nice pin that I could hold so that I'm not actually touching the mic part, and I probably should. But I feel like I have to hold it like a real microphone. I just grabbed my mouse as if that's going to change the slides. Thanks for your patience online, folks, too. What's that? We will get through this today, I promise. Does anyone here have any communication strategy built specifically for their campus partners that they use right now? Just out of curiosity? No? Interesting. Does anybody work in like a centralized office like we do that helps support you guys do? Where do you work?
So we work in recruitment and admissions,
Okay.
which is within enrollment services. So we have the registrar's office upstairs as well. Our main strategy right now is that we have monthly faculty meetings with all of the various faculties to make sure that we're supporting them with our recruitment efforts for what goals they're trying to reach with their programs.
I love that. And do they have recruiters built in specifically to the programs, or is it all centralized?
Because it is decentralized. So some of them have it and some of them don't. So our working relationships really change depending if they have a communications person or not.
Right. Interesting. So enrollment services at Laurier, right, is not part of the registrar's office? It is part of the registrar. Okay, I got it.
And like finance is also part of it.
Okay. It's always interesting to hear how our structures are, they're similar, but they're different. So we call our student recruitment as our office that takes care of like prospective students and whatnot. And they're part of the RO too, but they like the way we kind of divvy up the work at McMaster is there's a group of us that are focused on like current students who are those students who are currently enrolled. Try it again. It's me, guys. Oh, it's me. I'm doing it. Okay, we're jumping back in now again, but I'm not restarting for a third time. So we're going to move on to our land acknowledgement again. And I just want to recognize that McMaster University in Hamilton is located on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee Nations, and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. And within this agreement, it uses the symbolism of a dish to represent the territory, as well as the spoon to represent the people that live within the territory and share the resources of the land. It also recognizes the responsibility of everybody to protect the land and only take what they need so that we can preserve it for future generations. I'd also like to recognize today that we meet on the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region of Alberta. And for those joining us online and for those in the room who are not from this area, you can visit whos.land to learn more about the land that you reside on. So our agenda for the day, we're going to tell you a little bit more about McMaster University, where our home is, as well as the Office of the Registrar and our role within the bigger university ecosystem. We're going to talk what we call foundational framework. And these are like the key takeaways that we have come up with after building an internal communications strategy for our campus partners, and the key things that we want you to take home with you today if you start thinking about your own internal strategy with your campus partners. We're going to tell you how we got started on this journey of ours, and then we're going to tell you specifically about the strategy itself. And we'll dive into two of the tactics from within the strategy. One is called RO Forum, and the second one is our RO intranet. And then we're going to summarize a little bit at the end and have an opportunity for questions and answers. So on that, I am going to pass things over to Hollie to talk to you about Hamilton.
Thank you, Charlotte. So Hamilton is where McMaster is based. We are the third largest city in Ontario, and you may know Hamilton referred to as Steel Town. That's because historically we were dominated by the steel industry. There used to be a saying that if it was made in Canada, it was made in Hamilton because our manufacturing sector was so strong. But with globalization, a lot of that manufacturing moved overseas and we had to pivot to new industries. That included like an arts and culture renaissance, which has brought Hamilton to the forefront in the last couple of years, as well as leading an innovation in the healthcare and medical research fields, which McMaster is a forerunner in. So McMaster was established in 1887. Right now we have over 32,000 students with us from over 125 countries, and we are consistently ranked as a top university in both Canada and globally. And so where do we fit in at MAC? Charlotte mentioned that we are part of the Office of the Registrar. We call it the RO more commonly, and we work to support students in the academic journey. We kind of think of it as the connection point because they'll meet us every step of the way. So that starts with prospective students coming for recruitment tours if they're thinking about going to MAC, to admissions, to helping get financial aid, OSAP, those kind of things, to scheduling their classes and exams, all the way to convocation. So we support them in their student journey the whole way. And it's not just students that we support, but also the campus partners that support the students as well. So one of our big challenges is thinking about how to make those meaningful connections. If we think about 32,000 students, that's a lot of connections that we have to make on a day-to-day basis, and then all of our staff as well. And so these are the 9 units of the Office of the Registrar. We work in communications and marketing, and that works as the bridge between all of the units and their audience, which is typically students. We help to ensure that we deliver effective messaging when it needs to be put out to students and staff. When the COVID-19 pandemic happened, we really had to shift, as everyone did, and shift our delivery model so that it was all digital. And we were working really hard to make sure that messaging, got out to people to know how to access all these new services that were now digital. So something that became very clear to us as communicators was that as a department, we're very siloed. A lot of our processes, they didn't allow for collaboration. They weren't easily accessible by our campus partners. And honestly, they weren't very accessible between the units themselves. So if we think about that student journey again, it goes a lot more smooth if everyone knows what's happening and everyone's on the same page. But one hand didn't really know what the other hand was doing. So we had never done an internal staff strategy before, and that's what leads us here today. So this is our foundational framework for today. So Bridging Voices begins with a solid foundation. And these are the key takeaways that we want you to think about from living and creating our strategy. So all feedback is a form of valuable data. Meaningful connections are the foundation of trust. And transparency is crucial for breaking down silos. So how did we get started? First, we had to measure our impact. And we did that by doing a survey. We hadn't done one in over 5 years, so it was more than enough time to kind of check in how we were doing. And since we had shifted our strategy our service model so drastically to digital, we really needed to check in and see how our campus partners were finding these new ways of doing business. Our target audience for this survey was frontline staff who support students in other offices. So that's faculty offices or like the Student Success Center, for example. It's people who are directly impacted by our work to be able to do their work. So we sent out a survey and we asked for their overall impression of their interactions with the RO as a whole, and then also as the individual units, if they had more interactions with one unit than the other, or maybe they had interactions with none of them or just a few of them, but we wanted them to rate their interactions based on the following criteria. So helpful, innovative, knowledgeable, professional, student-focused, supportive of McMaster priorities, and timely. And so along with all these ratings, they were also able to optionally include text feedback, which was open-ended, and all the feedback was anonymous, which we know sometimes leads to a bit more honest answers. So we just want to reiterate that all feedback is valuable data. I think human nature is to have an emotional response to negative criticism, but if we kind of shift our perspectives from thinking of negative feedback as a threat to a learning opportunity, that's when we can really implement change. So the feedback was shared with the RO as a whole. If it was the general RO feedback, it was shared with everyone at an all-staff meeting, but those specific unit specific feedback, some of those were a little more spicy. So we only shared them with the managers of those units. And we actually asked some of our colleagues who had never read this feedback before to read it for us today. Oh, but before we get into that, we did have quantitative results. So we averaged all the characteristics, we weighted them equally, and we came up with averages for both the RO as a whole and individual units. 3.6 was the average that we got for the RO as a whole. And I don't know about you, but when I was looking at restaurants to visit in Calgary, if I saw a 3.6, I probably would not have gone to that restaurant. It doesn't inspire a lot of confidence that I'm going to have a good time there. So we knew we had a lot of work to do. So this is some of the feedback. I jumped ahead a little bit.
Stop working completely separate from central marketing. It is confusing for everyone and not productive. Okay.
They should have clear and frankly better hours and provide an email or number to use. I understand that the RO is vast and can potentially receive dozens of communications on any given day, but there needs to be better or any communication. I'm totally sure. Potentially receive dozens of communications on any given day. Dozens is probably how many we get in the first 5 minutes of the day. We're talking more like hundreds, thousands. How dare they? How dare they? How dare they say that?
system is too archaic. We need a more nimble system and people who are willing to advocate for change rather than states constraints. Stop talking about limitations. This isn't innovative. That's not support. Wow, that is harsh. Yeah. State constraints. Thank you. Not big. We're thinking about all right.
So Moby here, he's our IT director of our systems unit. And so he just joined us last October. So he hasn't seen any of these results yet. So we had him read that one in specific because we knew that it would kind of hit him at the core there. So again, we want to remind you that all feedback is valuable data. So some of the stuff that came in was a little spicy, as Holly mentioned, but it was an opportunity for us to really understand what it was like to interact with us. From our campus partners. What the quantitative data allowed us to do is see that we had some areas to work on. And again, the spots that kind of rose to the surface as areas we wanted to address were around collaboration, timeliness, and innovation. But when we had that open-ended text feedback, we could really get to the heart at what people meant when they were scoring us lower in these categories. So what we did is we took all of that information, and we kind of were able to see three main themes that popped up. The first was around connection to people and knowledge within the RO. The second one, in response to timeliness, was they wanted faster responses from us if they had questions. And the third one around innovation was they wanted more creative solutions. So if you listened to Moby a second ago, somebody was talking about our archaic system and people within our office who were talking about the constraints of the system instead of trying to figure out how do we create a better system to be able to serve those partners. So this area right here became the backbone of our communication strategy. We were looking specifically to figure out how we could help people in frontline positions that work with students, how we could help them do their job better in serving students. Students often in a university structure do not know where to go for help, so they go to the closest office that they can get help. And often that's academic offices. And if they're going asking about things like OSAP, for example, they're going to have to defer to the RO for us to help support. But imagine if there was a way that they knew how to get the information from us so that they could support that student in the moment. Not only does it create operational efficiencies, we don't need to bounce that student to another office, they get their answer faster, but the student is also feeling a lot better because they don't have to hike halfway across campus, or they don't have to go sit in a chat queue that is too long and they have class coming up in 15 minutes. So that's what we were trying to do. Those specific offices who were working frontline supporting students, we wanted to figure out ways that we could help them. And in particular, we were looking at our tactics and how we make collaborative tactics, how we help them get information in a more timely manner, and how we are more creative as a group. So that leads us into one of the first tactics. We created something called the RO Forum, which was a full day retreat, if you will, with our campus partners to teach them about things. The reason we did this, the reason that we hosted it was because that we believe that meaningful connections are the foundation of trust. So we heard from them that there was a disconnect. They didn't know who to reach out to when they had questions or how to help students, and it took too long for us to get back to them. We also wanted to give them an opportunity to meet these folks, talk to them, build relationships. And so we had this in-person event where we forced everybody to come together. This is the RO Forum itself. In summary, as I mentioned, it was a full-day conference hosted by our office, and we invited all of the campus partners that we work closely with. The goals of the day were to introduce our campus partners to our staff members so that they knew who to reach out to when they needed help. We wanted to create more transparency around RO processes as well as projects, and we wanted to connect with them in meaningful ways. The other piece of this is that we were putting specific emphasis on having our RO staff members as the knowledge experts in this space. And so that was the big part about this connection. We wanted to be face-to-face so that they knew that there was a person behind the email or the Teams message that they were sending. So the format of the day, there were three main sessions. The first was the plenary session, and so it was lecture style. Everybody came into the room and they met our registrar, Sarah Robinson, and we shared high-level themes that surfaced from this campus partner survey. So in specific, we told them, we heard from you that you don't think we're collaborative, you don't think we're innovative, and that you want more timely responses. And then we told them what we're doing about it, including this day here. We also introduced another project that Holly's going to talk about in a minute, which is our RO intranet. And again, it was to say, we hear you. We understand how we can be better partners for you on campus. And here's what we're doing about it. Here's the solutions that you're looking for to make us better partners on campus. The second part of the day was breakout sessions, and each of these were hosted by the RO unit specifically. So those staff members, that's our records team up there, all those smiling faces right there. So they hosted a session specifically aimed at people who work with them and connect with them on a regular basis. And as a communications team, we helped work with these units to understand how to connect what we found in the survey with the unit specific results so that they could create a session that was really impactful for their partners. The third part of the day, which isn't up here because we were all too busy, but it was lunch. And it was a hot lunch. We all sat together like around tables. There was a person from the RO staff who was kind of the facilitator of the table. So the person who was meant to be the conversation starter if nobody was talking to each other. But very purposeful even about lunch and breaking bread together. So again, we want to reemphasize that meaningful connections are the foundation of trust. And we heard this a little bit this morning too about how important it is to still have these in-person connections, even in the digital spaces that we often live in right now. So what was the impact of this? We did a survey at the end of the RO forum, and I want you to take a look at the bar graph on the left there. We asked them specifically about some of those key characteristics that we measured the December before. This is in October. And you'll see on the left is the ratings from December 2022, where they rated those specific qualities of collaborative, innovative, helpful, knowledgeable, and professional. And then on the right, immediately following our RO forum event, you can see the results and how they were feeling sentiment-wise about those key characteristics afterwards. So they grew in all of the key characteristics we were looking for, and specifically the ones we were focusing on. We measured collaborative and innovative in this one too. You can see that they had the biggest jumps, those two on the side there. We also had over 130 campus partners attend this event, which was really exciting for us. And again, one of the things that we wanted to measure was, do you know who to reach out when you need help? Are you going to get those timely answers in a timely fashion? And 4.7 out of 5 was the average rating for I know who to contact if I need help, which was a big win for us. We also wanted to create transparency, as I mentioned, around those processes in the RO. And 4.3 out of 5 was the average rating for I learned something new by attending those breakout sessions. And also a big bragging point for us, because we were a big part of planning this day, 100% of the people who filled out our response survey said that they enjoyed their day. So that was really exciting for us. We also, as I mentioned, like our qualitative data around here. So we had open text box as well. And we have some really great feedback from these partners just talking about how they really liked the connection opportunities with people in there, how they really liked the SharePoint, which Hollie is going to share in a moment. And my favorite part of all of it was also the hot lunch was a pleasant surprise and very tasty. So great.
Thank you. Okay, so that leads us into our next point and our final point, that transparency is crucial for breaking down silos. So not only were we siloed in our own department, but we are also siloed across the university. And we think that one of the main ways to kind of break through is by being completely transparent and accountable in all of our processes. So we took on the RO intranet project as a tactic to kind of alleviate this pain point of transparency. So this is a Microsoft SharePoint site. We are a Microsoft-based university. We use Teams, we use SharePoint, and this project was designed to become the central communication and knowledge sharing hub for the RO. So here, our campus partners, they have access to RO documents, dates and deadlines, announcements, news, and more. And as Charlotte mentioned, it was introduced at the RO Forum, and it's an external facing site for McMaster employees outside of the RO who work in frontline student serving offices. So each unit has their own page on the site. There is a landing page where it pulls from all of the units, so you can get a holistic view of the entire RO, including a calendar that pulls so you can see everyone's dates and deadlines on one calendar. But if you wanted to see when communications and marketing has their summer retreat and their office is closed, you can go directly to communications and marketing and see a smaller view there. Some other things is a news section. So we encourage all of our units to keep updated with any announcements they have. There's a comment feature enabled so that campus partners can not only reach out using our contact pages, but also if they want immediate response, they can leave a comment function just like in Teams or something, and someone will respond to them because we get that notification. We also developed a community of practice with representatives from each unit and trained them on how to maintain their page. And that's not just from a technical standpoint, but also in a way that keeps the content engaging, making sure that they know what campus partners are looking for, and to make sure that they're populating it with both evergreen and term-based content. So I'm just going to point out a couple of the features that really speak to transparency and kind of try to alleviate those pain points. So each unit page is equipped with a contact page with a couple different methods of how to find the person to contact. So first, we have the first point of contact. This is prominent at the top of the page, and it directs to either a person or an inbox where people can direct their general inquiries and get a response quickly. And then further down on the page, we have team directories on each page. So this is a section with contact cards from everyone on the team, including their titles, their portfolios, their contact information. And if RO staff feel comfortable, we encourage them to put their picture linked with their account so that people have that face to name recognition as well. And then each page is equipped with a resource section, which is a document library. This is where units can upload all their files, policies, guides, anything that campus partners need easy access to. So for example, communications and marketing, we send out a lot of bulletins to students. Every month they get an email from the RO with need to know information based on their point in the student journey. So we compile them all for campus partners just so they know what we're communicating to students on a monthly basis. This also helps to reduce bottlenecks. It's not just about transparency, but it also creates that efficient process where it now becomes a self-service access point for campus partners. So again, transparency is crucial for breaking down silos. Our goal with the RO intranet was really to create this environment of open information flow, because when we share information openly, it not only builds that trust and accountability that people are looking for, but it also creates a more cohesive and innovative environment, and everyone kind of knows how to get the information that they need when they need it. And our quantitative impact has been really good. We launched this in October 2023. We've had almost 50,000 site visits. Maybe we've hit that now because we made these slides a little bit ago. 910 unique viewers, and then 53 visits per viewer, which means they're coming back. So that says to us that people are finding the information they need, and they're revisiting to make sure that they are not missing any crucial information. And then the qualitative impact, we also asked some folks if they would kind of give us a review on what they thought, how they felt about the RO intranet. We've also been asked to demo our intranet for other campus faculties across the university, because now more faculties are looking into creating their own SharePoint for their own campus partners. So that's been a really big win for us as well.
Little mic pass over. Okay, so we are on the home stretch now. I just want to summarize what you've learned today and some of the key takeaways. So this is basically a quick overview of the process, what has happened since we sent out that first survey. So in September 2022, we reopened our offices for in-person services. In December 2022, we wanted to hear from those campus partners to be like, what do you think of the things we changed and what do you need from us? So that was our check-in point, and it was the first time in 5 years that we had reached out to them to understand, how are we doing? From March 2023, that is when our campus partner strategy was finalized, got the sign off from all the big bosses that we could go forward and build all the things that we wanted to build. And that's what we did through spring and summer 2023. We really focused on that RO forum event. How do we bridge the gap that they're saying they don't feel connected to us, they don't know who to reach out? How do we create an event to alleviate that? Also the SharePoint. They want resources faster. How can we get them that? And so we built the structure for our SharePoint site with our systems unit within the Office of the Registrar. In October 2023, this is when our RO Forum event was hosted, when we brought all those 130 campus partners together to meet with us and to break bread with us and enjoy our hot, tasty lunch. And we also introduced them to the RO intranet at that point in time. July 2024, we're here right now sharing our story with you. But going forward, here are the next steps for us in continuing to execute on this plan. We have our next forum. We were told that people wanted us to host this event every single year. So we are. We're having our next one in October 2024, and the theme of it is collaborate, innovate, and elevate. You know, pulling in some of those keywords we want them to remember us for. And then we're going to reevaluate this whole strategy in December 2024 with another stakeholder survey, and particularly looking at those areas of collaboration, timeliness, innovation, and did we alleviate the pain points that these folks were feeling? Also, where do we go from here? We've built all these tools. Are they being used? We know they are. We just showed you the numbers. But what else can we do to help better serve them? Again, some of the key takeaways for our learning were this. All feedback is a form of valuable data. So we love the numbers. The numbers are easy to digest. The numbers are easy to reuse in the next survey to understand if we had impact. But we also like that sassy stuff that we were hearing from our colleagues in the videos. We want to better understand the numbers by giving partners an opportunity to tell us in their own voice, why are you ranking us the way that you're ranking us? Meaningful connections are the foundation of trust. Getting people in the same space together for face-to-face, making eye contact is what helps us build relationships. Transparency is crucial for breaking down silos. So we built that RO SharePoint so that people could have the resources that they needed in a time when they needed it. But we could also highlight and share the incredible work that the RO is doing that maybe we're not getting credited for because people don't know it exists. So now it's time for us to do a survey with you, because we want your feedback. And it's really just a fun survey. But if you can humor me, please scan the QR code that's on the screen there. I'm not going to be able to show you the results in real time because we didn't build that slide into this, but that's okay. I'll walk you through what happens there. I also really needed an excuse to use a Ted Lasso GIF because I love Ted Lasso. Do we have any other Ted Lasso fans in here? Yeah. It's a great show. Miss it so much. Okay. So when you go to that link there, do you see our first question? On a scale of mythical creatures, which best represents your internal communication strategy? Can you see that? Perfect. Okay. Oh, I see the responses coming in right now. So just to give you a concept for those who online, I hope that you're joining us too. You can join us at menti.com and use the code 945-15719. I'll say that a little slower. 945-15719. And we're asking you, on a scale of mythical creatures, with non-existent mythical unicorn being the most extreme left, which would be the equivalent of like a 0, to a 3 we would call our phoenix rising from the ashes, to all the way over to dragon, fierce and fiery. Where would you rate your internal communication strategy for your partners? And right now I am seeing an average of 3.2, which tells me that a lot of you are making some moves towards figuring out how you can better serve your students by working with your campus partners. If we look at the next question, should be on your screen now. On a scale of Queen songs, how excited are you for the rest of this conference? So the first extreme being, I want to break free. 0, you don't want to be here. You don't want to be online. Maybe you're in your bed already, just like having a snack and watching us here. To the other extreme, don't stop me now. We're just getting started on this day. There's going to be no more technical difficulties. Everything's going to go out without a hitch. Where are you rating? And I'm seeing right now we have an average rating of 4.4, which, it's a little low. I thought it'd be a 5, but I'm looking forward to the rest of the day and getting to know everybody here. And now we want to see some of that qualitative data, get to know everybody a little bit. So take out your phone. What are the last 3 emojis that you used? And that's going to tell us a little bit about who we've got in the room with us here. I see lots of hearts. We're a group of lovers. Oh, I love it. So many hearts. We have somebody with a middle finger, which is fun. We've got some nails being, oh, this is my favorite so far. Some nails being polished. What else have we got? We've got a celebratory. Somebody wrote fire hard eyes grimace on there too. I love this. We've got lots of laughing and smiles. Someone's having a stress day though. I'd want to check in with them. We've got like a really upset face, a sad face, and some tears. So I hope you're doing well. Oh, someone's got a skull too. Go get yourself a little treat and hopefully you'll feel better. And I love there's a sunflower on there too for summertime. I love it. And last question before we wrap up is, do you have any questions for us? People in the room here, you are welcome to ask us in person if you'd like. Folks online, we can see if you enter through Menti, or I believe our moderator at the back maybe have some questions for us. But that is officially the end of our presentation here. So I just want to put our contact information on the screen here. Again, I'm Charlotte. This is Holly. We've worked with McMaster. If you have any questions that pop up, or maybe you start building this in the future and you want to talk to us, pick our brains a little bit, our contact information is on the screen here. Yes?
Do you employ any other strategies in terms of kind of onboarding or communicating about the tool outside of the forum?
That's a great question. So the question was about, did we do any strategies around the tool specifically outside of the forum? And you're talking about this intranet site, correct?
Yeah, like trying to get the different parties and different groups to use it and do it. Yeah.
Yes, you got it. Yes. So some of the things that we did on top of the introduction was really at our RO forum event. So this was the opportunity where nobody knew about it. It was all whispers. We didn't know if it would be ready to go for the forum. So it was really, we really dove in and got it done. So we were able to give a demo and speak specifically to, this is where you find those resources. This is where you find your point of contact. Other than that, everybody who came to the forum, they got a little giveaway. It had a QR code that linked to the SharePoint site. So that was a big tactic for us. We also included it in a lot of our signatures, email signatures within the RO. We didn't mandate it for everybody, and we really wanted to make sure it was useful before we take the next steps. But that will be part 2 of what we're doing in this strategy. How do we get more than 50,000 visits in the next year on this site? Some of the other things that we did specific to this was to make sure that if we were sending an attachment to a partner, we would put it in the SharePoint site and link that to them, give them the link to the SharePoint site. So they just inherently wound up there without maybe even knowing. But that was a big thing, a big practice and a shift that we got the RO staff thinking about. Like, if you need to share a file, this is the place that you go to do that. So those are some of the ways that we started tackling getting awareness about our tool created.
I'm just interested to know which campus partners you did invite to the event
Mhm.
and how you chose which ones to invite. We have a similar enrollment services retreat twice a year, but we don't invite faculty or anyone like that to ours. So I'm just interested to know what's the differences are.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question for those joining online were, how did you choose what partners that you decided to invite to the event? So specifically in the RO, we went to all the managers and said, who do you work with on campus? And is there an email list associated with those people? So those were the ones, those key people that they interact with on a daily basis. So for every unit, that looks a little bit different. So scheduling and exams, for example, they work with a group of people called TT reps, which is timetable reps. And they're the people that help figure out the schedule for students. So all of them got invited. All of the people who need to schedule exams or use our scheduling software, all of them got invited. For us in communications, our main partners are the other communicators on campus. And we have a centralized university team called CMPA, which stands for Central Marketing and Public Affairs. We invited them, as well as other key frontline student-facing people. So Student Success Center, they are folks that help with career planning. They help with wellness supports. We invited them. So we were specifically looking at those frontline offices. So in faculty offices, it was the academic advisors who came. So those people who were interacting with students on a regular basis were the ones that we wanted to invite. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Awesome.
We've got
Yeah.
some online questions.
Okay.
The first one is, did you consider any tools other than SharePoint for the RO intranet? They currently use SharePoint, but many of their staff are not based at the university and have trouble accessing the website.
Oh, that's a great question. So if you didn't hear online, the question was, did we look at anything other than SharePoint? Because not everybody at this institution has access to SharePoint. So we, as Holly mentioned, are a Microsoft campus. So when we were looking at tools, we did look at something that was WordPress based. But what we really wanted to do was make the distinct difference between what was student-facing content on our website versus campus partner-facing content. So just naturally, when we were thinking through the flow, SharePoint is what kind of surfaced for us. But the bigger challenge was that we were one of the first ones on McMaster's campus to build a SharePoint site. So it was looking at accessibility of it from like a what do you call it, like structural level with our university's technology services. What am I looking for? Access. That's what I'm looking for, like permission settings. But the way that things are set up at McMaster is that we do have very specific different things in the back end in some techie world that I don't understand that can tell me Hollie is an employee, a full-time employee at McMaster University. So that's what made it easy for us to be able to do. Everybody who is identified as a McMaster employee will have access to this site. We do have the occasional new person who comes to work at McMaster, or sometimes we have students working in offices that need access to it, and then we get permissions that roll in and we can grant permission that way too. But all of the permissions are based on McMaster email addresses. So I don't think I have a great tip for you on where to look online person, unfortunately, but McMaster SharePoint was the tool that made sense for us.
I've got one more online.
Awesome.
Is SharePoint widely used across campus as an internet in general?
No. Not yet. Anyways, I think it will be. And I'm actually going to pass the mic to Holly because she's sat in on a whole bunch of different meetings with different campus partners who have seen the site and said, I want one. What do I do? So I'm going to pass to Holly to talk to you about her experience.
Okay. So yeah, as Charlotte mentioned, we were the first to build a SharePoint site in McMaster. But we do use SharePoint for other things. Sorry, not SharePoint, but Microsoft Office Suite. So we already had the capabilities. When we look at like our resources, I think a lot of times what makes the most sense is to use the tools that you already have, which is why SharePoint was the natural progression for us. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Is SharePoint widely used across campus as an internet in general?
So no, but Microsoft Offices. So Forms, what are some of the other ones? Teams.
I think part of that though is because, as I mentioned, thank you. As I mentioned, we were one of the early adopters of SharePoint. So this change to being a Microsoft campus happened within the last 2 years. So I don't think there's anybody on campus who has really explored the full potential of what you could do on it. And it was kind of like, here's your tools, do what you want. So we embraced it as a unit and figured it out with our systems. We're like, this is what we want. How do we make it happen? And so systems played a really key role for us in understanding structurally and working with UTS, like what we needed to do to be able to create this intranet site that we dreamed of. And that's why Hollie's being pulled into these conversations now, because people want to know what was the process? How did you do it? And how do we create it for our own departments?
I'm just going to add a little bit more to the last question, actually, just thinking about permissions and things, because from this, we actually had a second phase of SharePoint, which was an internal RO intranet. So I see a question on Monty as well that says, is this something that can be used for a smaller scale department? So we did take the success of the external facing one and have one specifically for internal RO employees to keep up with that transparency and collaboration and connection pieces, because to go back to some of our key points, like that foundational framework of making sure that our RO department works really well as a whole, has a strong foundation to then support the campus partners, was something that we wanted to focus on. So in terms of permissions and just thinking about how you would go about this at your own university, Mac, we have a dynamic flow set up for, like Charlotte talked about, all Mac employees would have access. But then in terms of our internal one, it's all manually based. So that's something that we didn't have to work with our larger IT department or systems as much. That's something that we could manage with our HR team partner to manually add and remove users as they go.
Through an Excel list, right?
Uh,
No, okay.
through me typing emails.
Bless your heart.
And yes,
Did you see a measurable decrease in inquiries to the RO, so whether like on email or chat or whatever that may be?
That's a great question, and that is really the next part of what we're going to be doing to continue investing the amount of time that we have in these tools, and to also talk about the impact that it's having. That's what we're measuring next, is like, with these tools, have we seen a decrease? And so anecdotally, the answer is yes, we have, especially around exam time. Our scheduling exams team get flooded with questions from all over campus. And so they noticed a decrease, but there's nothing that we've been able to quantify yet. So that'll be the part of the next steps, but short answer is yes.
There's 4 minutes left, just so you know.
4 minutes left, okay.
I'm gonna jump in with one more.
Okay, and then you, and then you. Okay. And then-
What type of SharePoint site is it? Is it a communications site?
That sounds like something system, no, Hollie's gonna know.
I'm trying to think of the other option. Did they give the other option?
No. Can you repeat the question? No, just-
Yes. So the question was, what type of SharePoint site is it? Is it a communication site? I know there's 2 different options. I was actually not at Mac in the beginning phases of this. I might know the answer. I believe it's a communication site because a lot of the features on there are based around communication, and we have that kind of real-time feedback with comment features. So I'm sorry that I don't have the exact answer.
I think you're right, though.
I think it's communication.
Yeah.
And then,
You're right. Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm trying to think how to frame this. So the department I work in is quite small for the university because it only deals with international students.
Okay.
But I really like the idea of getting, because we do have other departments that we collaborate with in some ways. So I like the idea of getting like feedback from them about how we can work better together. But I'm wondering if your kind of model here can work on a smaller scale, or if we just have to kind of like be creative and figure it out. But I really like your survey method and everything, so.
do you have thoughts? Sure.
So the question was that this person works in a smaller scale unit within the university, and they were curious about our survey strategy and if that would work for them, right? Did I summarize that well? Okay, perfect. I think that anytime you're reaching out to anybody, to be honest, any audience, it's really in the thoughtfulness of the questions. If you understand at the end of the day what the goal is of why you're asking them, I think you can build something that makes sense for what you're trying to do. So when we sat down as a group and I was told, Charlotte, we're going to do a stakeholder survey. I'm like, okay, cool. Why? And I'm like, well, I don't really know. And I'm like, is it about like partnerships? Is it about understanding how they feel? And they're like, well, we haven't done it in a while and we just had all these changes. And like, I don't think they know all the work that we do. And I'm like, okay, so this is really about perception. So I took that and was thinking about how do we find out what they think about us? We have 2 minutes left. So from there, I suggested, how about like what is important to us as a unit, like these key characteristics. And that's where we landed on those characteristics that we wanted to be known for. This is important to us. This is also tied to the strategic priorities of the university. So are we delivering on those strategic priorities of the university? And so that's where those key characteristics came from. So I think it still could be an approach for you as a smaller unit. You just have to identify like what specifically is important to you and how do we ask those questions in a way. And I do think that those open-ended options are a way for you to get that deeper dive into. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, did you have a question?
No, I'll talk to you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, this you answered. I love it.
Thank
It's my
you.
favorite.
So on Menti, can I steal your intranet idea? Yes,
Do it.
please. But like the whole thing is collaboration, right? That's what we believe in, I think, foremost is the collaboration between units, between people we work with. So absolutely. I don't even see it as stealing, but just
No, that's what
sharing
we're doing here
knowledge,
today,
yeah.
too, right? It's about thank you. It's about sharing our experience and something that's working really, really well for us. And that's what we love about this conference too. It's really about giving best case scenarios and things that are working so that we can work smarter, not harder. Thank you, everybody online, everybody in the room for your time today. I'm dropping the mic, the little tiny mic. I appreciate you all being here, and thank you so much. I don't know what to do with that. Now it's lunchtime.